I think everyone knows what social media is, Twitter and Facebook and so on, but I was going to come and talk about social media. But the more I got into this topic of social media and the more I spoke to experts and read papers and attended conferences, I started to actually appreciate that we've got it wrong on social media. And in fact, you know, I've heard a lot of experts advising individuals and organizations on a social media strategy or plan. And these experts talk about social media like it's something that you do to people. It's something that you do to people. But of course, you know, as we know, social media is actually about relationships. And you know, relationships are never something that you do to someone. Relationships are things that you do with someone or with other people. So I started to think about that, and in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, a revelation came to me, and I really discovered and revealed to myself that it's not about social media. It's actually about something a bit more profound than that. And the term that I like to use is actually followership. And as you'll see from my talk in a moment, what I'm going to talk about today is this concept of followership. What struck me as I started to get into this topic was that actually not a lot has been said about it. A lot about leadership, you know, the authentic leader and projecting yourself and situational leaders, but very little has been said about the follower. So here goes the title of my talk. And as you'll see, I'm going to talk about some interesting people. And this is where I'm going to start, actually. I'm going to start with two people. And what I'm going to suggest is that these two people tell us an awful lot about this thing called followership. I'm going to go also to talk about some other folks along the way. Mahatma Gandhi, of course, all of you know him, born in Porbandar in India in 1869. A long line of bureaucrats that are in his family, but he decided to make a break with tradition and go to England to study the law, against the advice of the headman of his community. He spent some years in England, then he went back to India to a predictable life of being a provincial lawyer. But that didn't happen because he had the opportunity to go to South Africa to defend a law case. Now, he spent 20 years in South Africa, and during that time, he really developed his philosophy of humanism. And that's a philosophy that I'm going to talk about as we go along. The other lady, I think most of you know, but who knew her just 3 years ago? Almost none of us. Let's have a look at her for a moment.
Roma, ma, ola. あなたの悪い恋愛をしたい。
Okay, 13 million albums sold, 51 million singles at a time of global piracy in the music industry. Born as a she started to play the piano at the age of 4. She wrote her first song at the age of 13. She grew up in a privileged New York family, went to a very expensive private school, but she never fitted in. She was different. She was a misfit. She was this round peg in a square hole. Now, how do I know this? Because she told me. And one of the building blocks of followership is to tell people who you are.